Welcome, friends, to the Bride of Christ podcast and the Total Health channel online and YouTube. Please like and share and help others to know the information we'll be sharing. And I'm glad to be sharing what I think can be helpful to you. The bottom line is that we're going to share several features. One is on physical health. Because Christ spent more time healing than preaching, and we'll also be looking at end-time events. But first, I want to give you a quick overview. In the Bible, it's really ahead of us, not behind us. We somehow think that the Bible was way back centuries ago, and that now we have modern medicine and we are scientific. Well, pharmacology is a false science. Because even I have a textbook quote from Drill's textbook of pharmacology and medicine, and it says that drug action always represents artificial interference with the natural functioning of the organism. Now, the natural functioning of the organism is to heal a problem. You know, if you have a cut, burn, bruise, broken bone, all those things tend to heal if we just cooperate, immobilize if the cut, we sew it up or we tape it. If we have a broken bone, we immobilize it in a cast. If you have a heart attack, you immobilize yourself in bed and get oxygen so your heart doesn't have to breathe so hard. These are mechanisms to help the body heal itself. And when we eat something every other hour, it's working the stomach all the time. Your stomach wants to do a job and empty and rest up to be able to do a good job on the next meal. And we need about 5 or 6 hours between the meals. That's physiologic. So 2 meals a day is better than 3 for most people, and I found that to be true. And eating a big meal at night is not a good thing either. So health information is key, and it can help you avoid medical care, which is not health care. Okay, medical care is the treatment of problems with pharmaceuticals. That's all the doctors know. They don't know the natural remedies, and so bottom line is. It's something that we can do for ourselves by eating wisely and well, and health care then is healthy habits, not only of eating, but there's a acronym New Start. Stands for nutrition, which is eating first, E for exercise, W for water. We don't drink enough water usually, but it helps the kidneys purify the blood, and then the second word is start, new start. We need a new start every day. And S for sunshine or sunlight, which, by the way, brings vitamin D and strengthens the bones. And if you get plenty of vitamin D, if you got breast cancer, it won't spread as easily to your bones, etc. Vitamin D is actually good for in many ways. We don't know them all. But T for temperance, and it doesn't just mean moderation in everything. It means abstinence in those things that are harmful, like drugs, like alcohol. And you can't smoke moderately. Abstain from those things. Break your bad habits. If something is addictive, don't do that. Okay, and that also includes brown liquids. I wish I had a $10 bill for every patient I've seen that wanted something for their nerves. Well, because they're drinking. How much coffee do you drink, or Cokes? Too much caffeine, etc. They don't sleep well, so. Nervous problems, sleep problems. Mothers who drink a lot can have a baby with a cleft palate or hair lip birth defect because of chromosomal damage, high intakes in the first trimester of pregnancy. I spent 3 months in pulmonary and cardiac wards in the intensive care unit. Coffee is not allowed. Because in the context of a heart attack, the caffeine can trigger a fatal arrhythmia. It lowers the threshold for ventricular fibrillation, and not good. People that have fried eggs, bacon, and coffee for breakfast and then run for an airplane, not a good idea. They could have a heart attack on running. It's better to miss the plane. Well, anyway, just wanting you to see the how those healthy habits, which include air, pure air, not smoking, and rest, Getting enough sleep at night helps us cope with stress. And attitudes like trust in nature, trust in God, believe that things are going to work out. If you believe you're winning, it's better than if you believe you're losing in life. So let's do those things and trust God for His promises. Coming now to the facts of the Bible and what it says in terms of end time, I'm seeing that the preachers today are really addressed in the last book of the Bible, Revelation, in the 3rd chapter. There are seven different churches. They were in existence in the time when the apostles were alive in Asia Minor. It was Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. And the Laodicean church, which spanning the centuries, is the last one to come on the scene, and we are like that in America. We have a focus on materialism. We think money is great, and the preachers are buying airplanes and jets and things like that. Not a good idea. We need to give the gospel a better chance for the poor people and the people in Africa, etc. And so it's something that we need to think about, and because the counsel to the church of Laodicea is that you think you're rich and increased with goods, but 5 words, they don't sound very good, and the last 2 are blind and naked. Preachers are blind spiritually. They don't see what's coming. They don't see who's outside knocking. It is truth. Christ is the truth knocking. And we are so. And naked means loins are not girded with truth. In Ephesians 6:14, we're supposed to put on the whole armor of God and have our loins girded with truth. Well, if naked, it means there's some truth we don't have. I'm coming from a Seventh-day Adventist background, and I think it's no exception. They don't have the truth like they think they do. They think they have all the truth, like the Sabbath, etc. Well, they don't even have the annual Sabbaths, which are in Leviticus 23rd chapter, holy convocations. Those holy days are like holidays, and I think it was in God's church in Bible history time. They went from Jerusalem. They went down to Jerusalem twice a year for a week of spiritual teaching and fellowship. It's nice. It was like a vacation twice a year, in the spring and at Passover month in late April, and again 6 months later in the fall, the Feast of Tabernacles, which we don't fully understand, but I think it's got important stuff. It was to commemorate when Israel was in the wilderness, and they lived in tents and booths. In Jerusalem, they would put up a booth for the week, and it was called a feast day because I think they sacrificed a lamb when they were down there, and that week they had a lamb to eat. Whereas at home, they didn't kill it every day, didn't have refrigeration. So they were largely a vegetable, plant-based diet, and that's what God gave us in the beginning anyway. In Genesis, the 2nd and 3rd chapters, we were to eat things from the ground. I heard another cardiologist say if it grows out of the ground, it's okay. Other things, be careful. So anyway, in the and by the way, I should say that in Leviticus 3:17, the last verse of the 3rd chapter, says to eat neither the fat nor the blood of the meat. Well, that's what makes it so tasty, and why, though we get with the fat we get high cholesterol and heart attacks, and with the blood of diseased animals we can get cancer. So all of that, God can prevent it if we have if we're careful in how we eat. Well, getting back to the eschatology and how we get to the end times, preachers are not seeing them how they come, but half of preachers believe that we're going to be snatched out of here to heaven, and that's from a misunderstanding of the wedding parables. We need to see the wedding parables as an expression of Ecclesiastes 3:15. In the New English Bible it says, what is has been already, what is to come has been already. God summons each event back in its turn. And if God is going to bring things back, it means that history repeats. And it especially is true of the Exodus. When Israel left Egypt, God afflicted Egypt with judgment. It says in Exodus 12:12, God said, I will execute judgment. And in verse 42, he says, it's the night of the Lord. Well, as day follows night, the day of the Lord is found 25 times in the Bible. And it refers to the end time period. It's not when he comes in the sky, but it's the last 7 years. I'm giving you what I believe from my basis. And I believe that it was signaled by a series of events in 2015, because Joel says the sun will be darkened and the moon turned to blood before the day of the Lord, where the word before is panim in Hebrew, means face or facing the day of the Lord. It means soon after. Okay. And not only that, but it says when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes in 1 Thessalonians 5. And it's talking about the day of the Lord that comes as a thief in the night when they're saying peace and safety, sudden destruction. Well, there were other things as well, like the Pope's visit and the Iran nuclear treaty. It was the peace and safety, etc. And I'm seeing that those events, I think, were a 7-year warning, like Joseph gave to Egypt when he said there'll be 7 good years of plenty, followed by 7 of famine. That's in Genesis, the 41st chapter. And it had, 7 lean cows. 7 fat cows were eaten up by the 7 lean cows. And just as famine followed the years of plenty, but Joseph told Pharaoh that it meant that there's famine coming, and choose somebody wise that can store up the grain and have it preserved so that you can have food to eat through the 7 bad years. And Pharaoh couldn't find anybody better than Joseph. He elected him to be his prime minister and to store up the grain. And so when the famine came, Joseph's family came down. They heard there was grain in Egypt, and they didn't recognize Joseph. His brothers didn't, but it was an amazing family reunion when it all turned out that they understood that they had betrayed their brother into slavery, but he ended up as prime minister and saved their lives. That's awesome. God is so amazing, and the stories of the Bible are so wonderful truths that it's for our time as well, that God is going to spare us if we can somehow get it right. And in this case, it's not about storing up the grain, but being ready, because what's coming is like the Exodus. Egypt was bad. They enslaved Israel after Joseph died, and the Pharaoh was a different Pharaoh came along that didn't remember the history, and so he enslaved Israel, and they were afraid they were going to get strong, so they threw their babies in the river. But America is like that. The U.S., of all things, we have enslaved people in alcohol, tobacco, drugs. Even prescription drugs are a form of bondage. If you have to go back every few weeks and get more, and with the adverse reactions, it's not good. But the point is that we've also thrown 63 million babies in the trash, worse than Egypt. So God has to judge us, and judgment is coming. Take a look around. It doesn't. This country is badly divided over who's going to be president, and neither one seems too exciting to a lot of people. So one of the headlines I saw today was how Obama and Clinton's and somebody else are talking about how Biden can be helped out of the presidential race. Well, hang on to your hats. I don't think he's going to make it to November. Anyway, let's get back to what's coming. And God sees it from the beginning, and He declares it in His Word, a lot of it. Okay. In fact, I'm seeing that the vision at the time of the end in Daniel 8 includes 2 horns on a ram. A Muslim ram is pushing from the Middle East north into Russia, south into Africa, and west to Europe and the New World. And it angers this goat that comes flying from the west. And basically, the horns, it says in Daniel 8, verse 20, represent on the ram the kings of Media and Persia. Persia is Iran. It's been that way for 100 years. And Media was where Iraq was. So this vision is about half fulfilled already, and we're going to see Iran, which did send rockets and drones, missiles over to just a couple months ago. They're going to do it again, and they're going to surround, as it says in Zechariah 14, nations will be gathered against Jerusalem, houses rifled, women ravished, half the city goes into captivity. And then the Lord is going to fight against them. And he'll use the goat to do that, but also it says the Lord will roar from Jerusalem, the heavens and earth will shake. I kind of believe that the Muslims are going to celebrate their Quran, which says Allah has no son. Okay, and that's when the son, who is in Revelation 5:5, he's the Lion of Judah. I think that's when he's going to roar, and the heavens and earth will shake. But that earthquake, if it's that big, and by the way, there's a rule of first use in the Bible, because Christ is Alpha, Omega, first and last. He's also the Word. Go where the Word is first found. It tells you more about where it is going to be in the end time. And in the first place where Day of the Lord is found is Isaiah 2:12, Day of the Lord. And if you flip 12 around, it's verse 21, when God will shake terribly the earth. So we're in for a huge earthquake, and I am confident from my study and everything that Southern California is going to get it, just like San Francisco did years ago, and maybe San Francisco will get it again because they haven't learned some lessons. Okay, but we've exported so much sin from Hollywood. Every type of sin has been transported to the world, and the Muslims think we're the great Satan. Well, Hollywood might be close to that. But anyway, let's consider what's coming, and it will be a attack on Jerusalem, because Jerusalem represents God's people, and that will mean to us a time of judgment impending. And when the Lord roars, the heavens and earth shake, there'll be that big earthquake, but we can be spared if we watch. Watching means be awake, pray, just as Christ asked his disciples on the eve of Passover, watch and pray. When we think things are coming, we should not just take a sleeping pill and go to bed, but we should watch, pray, and ask God to spare us. And so that's what I see as impending. And when it happens, it's going to be the end time stuff. That earthquake is really the knock in the wedding parable of Luke 12. He says, be ready when I come and knock, that you'll open immediately. Well, Luke 12's wedding parable is a mirror image of the Laodicean message. And interestingly enough, both passages, Luke 12, 35 to 48, and Revelation 3:14 to 21, are parallel. Both get a knock. Both are to open. Both get a meal. And sit with me on my throne in Revelation 3:21 is the same idea as make us ruler over all that he has in Luke 12:44. If we are so doing when he comes, we can be there. And I'm saying, hey, since my name is ruling, I want to understand how we become ruler. And it's not about me. I believe it's about 144,000, the most privileged group of people in the Bible, who get to follow Christ wherever he goes in eternity. In Revelation 14:4 says they're virgins, and in my opinion they're the wise virgins that get into the wedding, as opposed to the foolish virgins who think they're just going to wait and see. Wait and see doesn't require any faith at all, and that's not what God is looking for. He's looking for people who read his word and who will try to share it with others so they can be ready as well. And that's what I'm doing with you, and I'm hoping to see you at the top, like Zig Ziglar used to say. He was a positive thinker as well. And we can be God's spiritual bride, basically, with high reward. Yes, heaven is a free gift, but he will reward us according to our works. And If I can travel with Christ wherever he goes and be present to hear all the things that are going on, it would be better than sitting on a farm somewhere and growing my own fig tree, which is also very good, by the way. And figs have medicinal stuff, but in Israel, each man had his own fig tree, or something, some reference to that. Anyway, so let's study and get ready and be prepared for when the end times are coming. I see that as a link to Passover, because they were to pray that God would pass over them in judgment. And I thought this spring might be that way, but nothing huge happened during Passover. And by the way, there is a 9/11 Passover in Numbers 9, verse 10 and 11. I think God was choosing those numbers to get our attention, because every American knows 9/11 was a big deal, and it's a provision for Passover 1 month later. If a Israelite took a long trip, couldn't get back in time for Passover, he's not excused. He had to keep it in the second month to show his observance and the importance. They were to pray that God would pass over them in judgment as an echo of Egypt. And I believe we're coming to a time when God is going to get us out of America to the land of the covenant, like he took Israel out of Egypt. You look at Jeremiah 31, it's the New Covenant chapter, and it says in verse 8 that he that scattered Israel will gather him and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. Verse 10 says, your children will come again, I will gather them from the north country, which was Babylon, the coast, the lame, the blind, the woman, the child, a great company will return there. So this is one of the things, when you can't buy or sell or hide from the New World Order by the UN, and you are compelled to go along to get along, or get the plagues, which God promises if you go along to get along, because God is going to have his own kingdom in the land of the covenant. And we can be there and be part of his kingdom by making a covenant. And making a covenant is the focus of this book here, The Earthquake and Seven Seals. And I want to encourage you to go to my website, 3 words everybody wants, healthhappinessdestiny.com, and for just a few dollars you can get this book in the digital form, or a few more, still less than $10 all, will include postage and shipping for a soft cover copy. Forget how many pages it's got, but it's maybe a half-inch thick nearly. I think it's close to 200 pages. Anyway, topics that we can use to make a covenant. Just like God has a name, that's one of the topics that we need to know, God's name. A bride must take this the name of God, so that she takes her husband's name, etc. Covenant is part of it. We need to make a covenant with Christ, and these are things that we can do to be part of God's kingdom. And God told Israel, if you keep my covenant, you'll be a kingdom. Well, and he later said, I'm married to you, return to me, in Jeremiah 3:14. So kingdom and marriage is based on the covenant, and you can do that. And if you get my book and you want to email me any questions or talk, you're welcome. We can arrange for a discussion or whatever. So thank you very much for considering this information. We are close to the end of time when we need to be sharing this and inviting others to the wedding. It's not always easy, and in Matthew 22, God sends his servants to bid people to a wedding, but the remnant were scorned, ridiculed, until their city burned. And I think for Adventists that may be Loma Linda, because they have done bad stuff, hijacking Ellen White's school that was supposed to be for natural remedies, etc. Thank you for listening to this, and wishing you well, and please let's keep in touch and share this with others. We'll see you again at the top. Thank you.